Hello and welcome to the Mosaic International South Asian Film Festival, Misaff, presented by the Canadian Community Arts Initiative, CCAI. My name is Arshad Khan and I'm the festival director. We're really excited. The festival is running from the 4th to the 12th of December. We had a wonderful opening night yesterday. Thank you for joining our Facebook Live. Please tell your friends, tell your family to join us online. Stay home, stay safe, watch movies. We are really excited today to have with us a great filmmaker. This is his third film that we have selected for Misaff. His name is Amartya Bhattacharya, and his film is Ketu, which is world premiering at this year's Misaff. Welcome, Amartya.
Thank you, Arshad. Very glad to be here. And thanks to all the viewers, all my friends in Canada. Thank you so much for welcoming and for giving a platform for the world premiere of my new film, Ketu.
Well, I think it's crazy expeditious of you to go and make this crazy experimental, tribute to COVID-19 lockdown and isolation. Everybody's like, thinking about the films that are going to come out next year that have to do with what's going on in our world. But here you are, you made the most of it, you made the most of the lockdown and created this very, very interesting audiovisual, treat. Tell us about it a little bit. What compelled you to work on this project?
Yeah. So when I made this film, India was strictly under lockdown, complete lockdown, and I was unable to move out of my small room in it is more of a small town, and in that city, in that small room, I was stuck for 3.5 months. So I did not have access to anyone or to anything. So the only way I could kind of spend time was with myself. So that's the time I thought that let me utilize this space, the space as in this room, because the space always interacts with you. Like you interact with a space also interacts with you. So I thought that why not film this space and film myself in this space, as in a selfie cinematography. Like people do the selfie photography, I thought let me try something like selfie cinematography where I also would get a chance to act, because I am always behind the camera, so I never get a chance to act. And this is an accidental way of acting in my own film and also cinematographing it myself. So I thought this is a very interesting time I would spend with myself. I never thought how the audience would react, whether anybody in the world would at all find this film interesting. But after I made the film, I made it in 21 days. And after the 21st day when I made this film, I thought perhaps from a certain point of view, I feel that this is perhaps my best film. In a certain sense that it has certain uniqueness and it has certain flavor, which is very much myself. It's a very honest portrayal of who I am.
Wow, yeah, there's deep honesty in your work. I don't know how to quantify people's films, which one is better, which one is, because our film is a creation which is temporal, a certain time and space and mindset and goings on. So, and as people, we grow. So I guess, your film work also grows. So maybe you feel that way. We've had your film Khanika, and then
Yeah.
and at Misaff. Then last year we had your other film. Um,
Runanubandha.
what's it called?
Runanubandha.
Yeah,
Runanubandha.
Runabandhan. What's the English title? I forget.
The He Without Him.
The
The
He
He
Without Him,
Without.
which
Yeah.
won an best
Yes.
editing award.
Yes.
Again, that was a masterful film with very good performances, a beautiful leading lady, and poetic, extremely poetic film with the beauty of the city. It's shot in Calcutta, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
beauty and poetry of Calcutta in that. And now here is such an introspective film. You're really looking inwards, but I think a lot of people can relate to this film. It's visually very interesting, and the soundtrack is excellent. You're such a good actor. I was thinking, my God, he's keeping his eyes in one spot, is not even reading. How is he doing this? So well done. Are you
Thank
thinking
you.
of working on other people's films, acting in other
Yes,
films, or?
yes, yes. If in your film you think that I am suitable, please cast me. I would love to work.
Yeah, so tell me, how did you work on this editing? And did you, I mean, we're inside in one room, yet we're also outside. You make those phone calls, those video chats, and then we see other places. So in a very clever way, you still take us
Yeah.
outside in a little
Yes.
cheating way. So we're not always just always stuck inside. But it is interesting to examine every banal thing, like the banalities of life, like a shower, a fan, the refrigerator. It's always like, a shot, reverse shot. Tell us
Mhm.
about your decisions.
Yeah. Thank you. I think in this context, let me say something which is very fundamental. Fundamental to some people say the ancient Indian culture, if I may call it so, not religion as such, which said that every individual or every microcosm is actually a replica of the macrocosm, which means every inside is actually a reflection of the outside. So when you introspect, when you dive deep into yourself, you actually venture outside. So it's a very
Wow.
spiritual way of going inside and venturing outside, both at the same time. So here I used mobile as only a tool, or the computer in front of me as a tool to kind of exaggerate that experience, which otherwise is limited only in a very philosophical and in a very spiritual way.
We have a question for you
Sure. Yeah.
from Sally. How do you think the experience of making this film will impact the future of your films post-pandemic?
I'm not very sure because this is a film which I'm glad is being world premiered at Misaff, and I look forward to festivals like Misaff who would encourage these kind of, if I may call it, daring filmmaking, where don't really give a damn to the contemporary style and language and grammar. Rather, I try to indulge into the art in a very different way. So if this indulgence is appreciated as it always should be in the field of arts, because otherwise art becomes very stereotypical. So if it happens, then I think this film would really encourage me to make many more films of pure myself, or rather films that I would love to make, because I by nature I am not a very narrative driven person. I like poems and paintings more than stories. So story appeals to me, but when I try to express myself, it's more of poetry, it's more of painting, and it's more of films of my type, like Ketu. So Ketu has certain richness in it, certain cinematic elements in it, which could be a little rare to find. So I hope that this film would open up new avenues, if not for anybody else, but for myself. I'm
Oh,
hoping.
wow. So, you know what? That's so true. Your film is like a painting and poetry. That is so true. And yeah, I really, really think our audiences are going to enjoy the experience. It's an experiential work, I find, more than anything else.
Yes.
And you just put it on the screen and you just like experience your work, and you let it's also very meta, filmmaker making a film about a filmmaker. Uh, so I think that's also very interesting, and I think people are relating to it because your work is always enjoyed by our audience. And it's true, these unique voices really need to be disseminated, and I think your film will go to many festivals. I'm hoping for sure. Well, you brought us the world premiere, we are so excited about. It's really, really, really generous of you. What does Ketu mean? Ketu, you say Ketu.
Ketu. Ketu is actually Ketu. It's the soft T. Ketu.
Ketu.
Ketu. Yeah. So Ketu is considered an imaginary planet or a shadow planet in Indian astrology, and it is seen as something negative by many people, though the philosophical explanation of Ketu is not negative. It says that Ketu, the influence of Ketu, the imaginary planet Ketu, is actually taking you away from materialistic pleasure and taking you away from comfort. And it forces you to look into yourself. It forces you to be a little more spiritual, to be a little more introspective, and probably that opens up new avenues of knowledge and wisdom. So, in effect, Ketu is a teacher who teaches you in a hard way. And if you look at this COVID-19 situation, this pandemic, perhaps nature is acting like Ketu. We hate it, we think it's very negative, but maybe through the tough times, through the struggles, nature is teaching us something. So like it's all like an influence of the imaginary planet Ketu that we are all going through. So that is how I named it Ketu.
Very nice. So we have another question from Deepti Gupta, who lives in Montreal as a film academic. The music in this film is so interesting, Amartya. Amartya enjoys and brings so many art forms in his film. That's what Deepti said.
Thank you, Deepti. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm very obsessed about music. I love music and different kind of music. And I feel that films, most of my films, most of the films that I really love watching, they somehow restrict music to certain genres. But I would love to explore beyond those genres and explore length and breadth into every genre of music, every genre of other art forms. And I think that cinema is a very beautiful canvas to really create a collage of multiple art forms, of which certainly music is one of my very favorite and powerful art forms.
Well, you're using music for sound design. You're creating anxiety, creating emotion. You're creating happiness, creating sadness and longing through your music. Very cleverly done. Who did you work with for your music and sound design?
Yeah, so sound design, most of it is done by myself, but music is done by a very talented youngster, Kishalay Roy. He works in all my films. Uh, he rather collaborates with all my films because I can't call it work because he's so involved in my films. He was the music director in Kyanika, he was the music director in Runalubanda, he's the music director here, he's the music director in all my films because I love working with such a passionate young guy who really feels that it's his film as much as it's mine. So he 100% gets involved with the films and he creates some magic, some different kind of experience. And I don't allow him to watch the film when he makes the music. So his music trip is an experience in itself. And my film is an experience that I'm going through. And in editing table, it is me who decides how I would integrate that music with the scenography or with the visuals or the images that I'm framing. So it's a very different approach because most films would naturally first log the timeline, then give it to a music director to compose. But I don't do that because I feel that that would bring in an element of conventional approach because people would think that okay, there's some pathos needed here, there's some thrill needed there. So I need to avoid that because if I'm showing something in images, I don't want that to be underlined in music. I rather would want music to open up another space, to open up another avenue. So that is only possible if the musician is working independently, if the musician is creating a magic of his or her own. So I think Kishala is able to do that. And in terms of music, I have done another very exciting thing in this film. I have voiced a rap here. There's a rap, a psychedelic rap, which I have voiced. I'm not a singer. I am not a trained musician at all. But I just recorded in my mobile, and when I sent it to Kishala, he said that this looks very very interesting, and we can keep it as a rap. So we kept it as a rap form, and it's another very beautiful experience for both of us because neither did I imagine nor did he imagine that I would ever voice something in a film.
That's so interesting. And tell me, how is it that he's not seeing what you're creating, but he's creating the music? So you are selecting where the music goes?
Yes, I only tell him, describe him in a different way. So I tell him, for perhaps I tell him that you are standing in front of an ocean and there's a sunset and there's a kid who's drowning in the water. So what if you have to juxtapose these two extremes in your music? How would you treat it? Now, my context of the film is completely different. It has nothing to do with what I described to him. But I want to evoke a certain sense in him so that he creates something which I'm going to use in a different context. So that is how I treat, or I rather, initially it was very problematic for him because he thought that when he watches the film or when he watches the visuals, it will allow him to compose in a more precise manner. But after a few exercises, I explained to him, or rather, he also understood how magical it is when you create music of your own and that is juxtaposed with a different form in a film, because that is how unconventionally music comes to the forefront. In cinema they call it background score, I call it music because I don't push it to the background. Sometimes my music are right at the front, it's foregrounded. So music is a very independent strong entity, and I mean, I love experimenting with music.
That's wonderful. That's a very different way of looking. Would
Yeah.
you describe your cinema as experimental?
I used to, but I met a filmmaker, a very favorite filmmaker of mine called Ashish Avikunta. He is a fantastic filmmaker. And in a conversation, I told him once that I love your experimenting. He said that I don't experiment. I am very certain about what I'm doing. So I love that answer. So from then on, I am really thinking whether I should call myself experimental filmmaker because I'm also certain about what I'm doing. But in the context of the world, it is experimental. But in the context of myself, I'm very sure of what I'm doing. So I'm not experimenting. I'm kind of precisely creating something, which is an aesthetic representation of my thought in cinematic language. So, but yeah, in the context of the world, I'm experimenting.
Yeah, and also sometimes when, a lot of people who are not cinephiles, when they come and see the different genres, they, like to know what kind of experience they're going to have. So sometimes we use the term experimental for work that is not traditional or not narrative in the same sense.
Yeah,
So I think it's more towards the audience that we direct that term,
correct.
but it's so interesting how
Yeah.
you frame it, and it's so true. Of course, everything the filmmaker does, everything you make, is very intentional, and this is
Mhm.
like your life's work. What's next for you, Matya?
My next film is a tribute to one of my favorite filmmakers, Jean-Luc Godard, the French New Wave author.
Is his 90th birthday, right? Or
Yes, his
just yesterday?
90th birthday was day before yesterday, and I'm completely, I mean, blown away by his works. I love Godard like anything. So this is a very satirical way of paying tribute to Godard in a form of a fiction, which is completely based in a rural Indian village. And this is the first time also I feel that my film is an out and out satire, and it's hilarious in a lot of ways. So maybe in future editions of Misaff I will get an opportunity to showcase that film. That's in the process of making.
Oh, inshallah, that would be so nice. But you know what else? We really want you to come to Mississauga also. We have not
Oh,
had
I would
the
love
chance
to.
to have you be our guest and meet all our film, or all our cinephiles and all our patrons who love Misaf and who love the movies, and also all our programmers and our staff who watch your films and enjoy them and really want to meet you. How are you coping with COVID right now in your town?
COVID, the situation in my town, Kolkata, is not good at all. And every day we are We are getting a lot of new infections, which is not good. Plenty of deaths, which is
Sorry to hear
very,
that.
yeah, which is very disturbing for any human being, not just for any artist. It's very disturbing because after all, these are all my people, in the sense, in every
Yes.
sense. So anywhere it happens in the world, like it happened in Italy, it happened in USA, it happened in many parts of the world. It's so disturbing, and I really hope that the entire world, along with Kolkata and West Bengal and India, recovers soon. I am very happy for the countries or for the areas which are not much affected, and I hope that the affected areas get back to normalcy soon. But I don't know how soon it will is going to happen. Probably vaccines will help. I don't know. Those are for experts to judge. But yeah, it's very disturbing. So just waiting for things to come back to track.
I have another question. I even love the poster of the film. It looks like a frozen hand. Tell us more of that choice
Yeah, that's a beautiful question.
by
You
Deepthi
know
also.
what? You know what it is? I mean, I just rolled out a question, and very few people guessed even near to what it is. It's actually a lizard. It's a skeleton of a lizard, which I accidentally discovered. So, in my window pane, a lizard was there, which accidentally got crushed. Maybe because the wind had closed the window pane, so it got
Oh,
crushed
that's
accidentally.
so
And
sad.
yeah, it's so sad. And over the time, the the lizard's body was dry, and the skin was coming off. And after a lot of time, after around 14-15 days, when I opened the window pane, I saw that hand sticking out like
Oh,
this.
that's
So
so
I
sad.
thought it's a very tragic, very intense, and a very apt representation of its time, because after all, it's somehow crushed, maybe in a window pane, but it's the time where many of us are mentally or physically crushed as well. And it's only our exoskeleton which is sticking out, and we are trying to make our existential presence through the sticking out of our exoskeleton. So that's how I thought that it's a very apt image for a
Beautifully
poster.
said. Beautifully said. Asma has a question. What was the film that changed your thinking about cinema? Do you think filmmaking will be simplified with the situation today?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Firstly, I don't think that any film in particular changed my way of looking at cinema, because I was mostly disgusted with the kind of Indian films that I watched in my childhood, and I really did not like cinema because because films really appeared shallow to me. I love theaters, where there would be more thought provoking, more intellectual, more intense work, rather than something which will be for shallow entertainment. Later on, I understood that good films are also made. They don't come to us, or they don't come to the people, unfortunately. So then I started exploring the worlds of Bergman, Godard, Fellini, Kim Ki-duk, Xaiming Lian, Louis Buñuel, Tarkovsky, Kurosawa. So all of them, I love all of their films. I think they all are masters in their own right. And I especially like filmmakers and films which are very strange, which just shocks me in a certain way. It gives me something I have never seen or heard before, because something which I very easily can relate to, I think I already know it, or I have seen it, or I have heard it. Now I want something new. For example, your film Abu gave me a very different collage, a different sense of collage. And I'm not saying this because I'm interacting with you. I'm saying this because it's a very special film in a very special way.
Thank you.
There was animation, there were stills, there's an element of history, there's an element of personal attachment. So if you jumble up all of this together, it's a different experiential approach. Like initially you were talking of cinema being an experience. So I think that cinema which really comes through as an experience or which gives me something which I don't expect. I think I love those kind of films. So, but yeah, there's probably no one film which really changed my way of thinking. And there was another question. Did I miss a question?
Or do you think the film? No, thank you so much, first of all. That's very
Okay.
kind of you. I really am humbled because you're such a great filmmaker, and for your appreciation means a lot to me. And I know it's very sincere. Um, I think, yeah, experiential films, sincere cinema, that's what you're talking about. And we feel it, like you make cinema that is poetic and visually and audiovisually poetic cinema you make from the heart. The question was, do you think filmmaking will be simplified with the COVID situation?
I I think I don't know. I think making
Storytelling.
may be simplified, making may be simplified, but film distribution and film exhibition is a huge challenge. And
Yeah.
unless a film reaches an audience, do you say the film is complete or do you say the film is yet to be complete? That's
Mm.
questionable. Because
Yeah,
a communication is complete only when I have spoken something and you have heard something. So if I have
exactly.
spoken something and you have not heard, is this communication complete? So there's a question mark. So I have made a film, but a film has not been watched. So is the film complete? So in that sense, I think completing a film or taking a film to the viewers probably has not eased after this COVID situation, because what this COVID situation has done is it has shut down the theaters in many parts of the world, and all the blockbusters and the industries, they have jumped into this OTT platforms, and the entire online space is clustered with mainstream films. So in that sense, does it really help the independent filmmakers or the filmmakers who are making films with an alternate thought? That is perhaps a little questionable, because if the virtual platforms and the OTT platforms, the digital media, if they're looking at profitability and embracing the mainstream films only, then perhaps it narrows down the arena of independent filmmakers and independent films. But I hope that new avenues will also open up, because with every challenge, with every hardship, there's always a new path that opens. We will probably not expect that. Today we are interacting. We never thought possibly that a festival would have such an interaction. But who knows? This may reach a lot of other people who would otherwise not have come to or otherwise not have been in a position to physically attend a festival. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so maybe new avenues will open up, but right now I'm still looking with a binocular. What are the new avenues opening up?
Yeah, I think that's very true. With challenges, new opportunities also become available. And one of them is this opportunity that we are able to interact with you sitting all the way in Calcutta, and I'm sitting here in Montreal. And, we are able to present your film across Canada, all across Canada. So those who are fed up with mainstream kind of storytelling have an avenue to watch something so different and yet so relatable and so visual and so poetic. Another question: what is the future of the film industry? Which you answered. Shala is asking. She's one of our programmers, keeping the pandemic in mind. So Shala asked the same question, which you just answered. But just to wrap up, Amartya, I mean, what are your future plans for your next project, and how do you see your cinema changing, and what are your goals over the next little while?
So, firstly, I mean, in the next few years, I have a lot of films planned. A lot of films. Uh, uh, three of my films are in the making. I mean, in some stages of pre-production. So, I'm hoping that I will be able to complete them once the situation turns normal, because I don't want to take a compromised approach.
Hmm.
Possibly I can take a compromised approach in within this timeline, but I'm still waiting when I can do the film in a very uncompromised way, because otherwise it will not be justice to the thought. which really forced me to make those films. Apart from that, I think that I'm really looking to stubbornly remain myself, which is a big challenge because uh, from the film distribution point of view, or from the film critics point of view, or even from the festival's point of view, I always tell you in person why I love Misaff so much. One big reason is the curation or the selection of films. I feel that your film selection is very, very special in a lot of
Thank
ways.
you.
And maybe Misaff is one of those very few festivals which will really go all out to support a very different kind of a film. But perhaps in the recent times, we have seen a lot of big festivals or medium scale festivals playing safe, turning to either the established filmmakers or turning to films which are very safe for catering to the audience demand. But if festivals are playing safe, it's only destroying the market for alternate thought, because festivals are the breeding ground for people who are really trying to push the borders, who are really trying to bring in a new revolution through cinema. So all these things will cease to happen if festivals stop opening the doors to newcomers, or to in newcomers, I don't mean first time filmmakers only. I mean filmmakers with new thoughts. Maybe you are making your 100th film, but that 100th film is just like a fresh film out of the blue. So, one has to embrace those kind of newness. So I think if those things, I mean, in a time when we are really under the challenge of these infrastructure and uh, the taste of people and programmers and critics, I feel that I would really do well if 5 years or 10 years down the line I can still remain myself, because there are forces which are trying to push me to make films which I don't want to. So I don't want to do that. I want to rigidly and stubbornly stick to myself. And I think with the support of festivals like Misaf, and with all your support and wishes, I would be able to remain myself in the years to
You're
come.
so you are so sweet and so kind. Um, the purpose of our festival, like many other festivals, is to give new voices a chance and unusual storytelling a chance. And you are definitely one of our beloved filmmakers. And really, we really wish you really all the best, because your voice is very, very important, but also because you have you have a very good sense of humor. You know, even in dark times, you manage to bring joy and this kind of unusual humor to cinema, and you speak so well. So we're so lucky. You know, this is another opportunity that we've had to have a really well-spoken filmmaker like yourself. We change, we always change, and circumstances demand us to change, and we grow. But unique storytelling, evolving storytelling is so essential, and your work is so appreciated. So thank you for bringing the world premiere of your very important film, Ketu, to Misaff. I'm just going to say very quickly that Misaff runs from the 4th to the 12th of December. The films are streaming. Ketu is streaming. And please watch the films, tell your friends, share on social media. Important voices like Amartya. And Amartya, I want to thank you so much for bringing
Thank
us your
you.
film, the world premiere of your film. And we wish
It's
you
my
all the best of luck. And let's continue this conversation. Let's have a lot more conversation about your work, and let's get your work seen around the world. All the best. Have a
thank you.
wonderful week.
Thank you so
Goodbye.
much. And it's an absolute pleasure